I'm about to show you why the standard medical advice of eating multiple, small, heart-healthy, grain-based meals throughout the day and swallowing over-the-counter antacids to settle your stomach is actually violently tearing apart your intestinal tight junctions, triggering a massive brain-suffocating drop in your blood pressure and causing the exact debilitating coma-like exhaustion that paralyzes you 30 minutes after you eat, and how aggressively sealing your gut barrier and mechanically accelerating your gastric emptying is the only biological way to stop your digestive tract from stealing the oxygen from your brain. We are dealing with a catastrophic medical blindness to the basic physics of human hemodynamics and gut permeability, and your cognitive energy is paying the ultimate agonizing price. Stay with me. For the next 30 minutes, we are going to completely dismantle everything the medical establishment has told you about post-meal fatigue, digestion, and why you feel like you've been hit by a tranquilizer dart the moment you finish your lunch. We are going to dive incredibly deep into the hardcore, terrifying mechanics of splanchnic blood pooling, the violent physics of lipopolysaccharide endotoxemia, the destruction of your endothelial glycocalyx, and the brutal reality of why chemically paralyzing your stomach acid is putting your entire central nervous system in a starving, oxygen-deprived biological straitjacket. By the end of this masterclass, you will understand exactly what is happening inside your gut every time you swallow, and you will have the aggressive, unyielding biological protocol to flush the toxic sludge and reclaim the endless, razor-sharp energy of your youth. Comment below if you spend every single afternoon desperately fighting to keep your eyes open, feeling a heavy, suffocating brain fog roll over you the second you push your plate away. Type energy if you want the exact aggressive biological protocol to fix the root mechanical cause instead of suffering through another day of medical gaslighting and caffeine-induced heart palpitations. Let me tell you about Evelyn. Evelyn was 71 years old, and she came into my clinic completely terrified that she was developing narcolepsy or early-onset dementia. Every single day, precisely 30 to 45 minutes after eating her perfectly compliant, doctor-recommended lunch of a turkey sandwich on whole wheat bread and a bowl of oatmeal, she would physically collapse. She couldn't keep her eyes open, her limbs felt like they were made of heavy lead, her brain would completely shut down, forcing her to sleep in her recliner for 2 hours, only to wake up feeling groggy, dizzy, and depressed. Her primary care doctor ran a standard, useless blood panel, told her her thyroid was in range, and casually suggested that extreme fatigue was just part of getting older. His solution? He offered her a prescription for a mild amphetamine-based stimulant to force her to stay awake. Evelyn was being aggressively gaslit by a medical system that treats the human body like a broken machine with isolated parts. Her doctor was trying to chemically whip a starving horse. When I looked at Evelyn's cellular chemistry and vascular physics, I didn't see a woman who was just getting old. I saw a woman experiencing profound, repeated daily micro-ischemic events in her brain. Her digestive tract was highly inflamed, her intestinal barriers were shredded, and her blood was being violently shunted away from her cerebral cortex and trapped in her abdomen. We immediately threw the chemical stimulants in the garbage. We completely re-engineered her gastric physics. We halted the endotoxic tsunami flooding her bloodstream. We initiated an aggressive protocol to physically spot weld the microscopic holes in her gut lining and force the blood back up against gravity into her skull. Within 3 weeks, the post-meal comas completely evaporated. The suffocating brain fog lifted. She ate her lunch and then immediately went for a 2-mile walk with razor-sharp clarity. She wasn't decaying, she was unknowingly forcing her cardiovascular system into a massive hemodynamic collapse, and her doctor was completely blind to it. To understand why Evelyn was passing out and why your brain feels like it is shutting off 30 minutes after you eat, we have to look at the exact brutal physics of your splanchnic mesenteric circulation and the terrifying reality of postprandial hypotension. The moment food hits your stomach, your biological machinery initiates a massive circulatory shift. Your gastrointestinal tract requires an enormous amount of oxygen and kinetic energy to physically churn, break down, and absorb that food. To accomplish this, your autonomic nervous system commands the splanchnic arteries, the massive blood vessels feeding your stomach, intestines, and liver, to violently dilate. They blow wide open. In a healthy 20-year-old, this is fine. The heart instantly compensates by pumping slightly harder, and the blood vessels in the legs constrict slightly to maintain the overall systemic water pressure in the pipes, ensuring that the penthouse of the building, your brain, continues to receive a roaring tsunami of oxygenated blood. But what happens after decades of eating processed industrial seed oils, massive amounts of refined carbohydrates, and living on a pharmaceutical cocktail of beta blockers and statins? Your vascular pipes lose their youthful elasticity. They turn into rigid, unyielding concrete. When your splanchnic arteries dilate to digest your food, up to 20% of your entire total blood volume rapidly, violently shifts and pools in your abdomen. Because your other arteries are completely stiff and calcified, they cannot constrict to compensate. Because your doctor put you on a beta blocker, your heart is locked in a chemical vice grip and physically cannot pump harder to push the blood back up. The result is a catastrophic plunge in your cerebral perfusion pressure. Your brain is literally drained of blood. The oxygen is sucked out of your skull and trapped in your gut. Your brain cells experience sudden, profound cellular starvation. Your neurological system panics. To protect the remaining oxygen, your brain forcefully shuts down non-essential functions like conscious thought and wakefulness. It forces your eyes closed. You are not sleepy, you are experiencing an acute, localized ischemic event. You are passing out because your brain is suffocating. But the hemodynamic collapse is only half of the nightmare. The second monster stealing your energy is the violence of lipopolysaccharide endotoxemia, caused directly by the destruction of your intestinal tight junctions. Your entire gastrointestinal tract, from your stomach to your colon, is lined with a single microscopic layer of epithelial cells. This layer is exactly 1 cell thick. It is the only barrier separating the highly toxic, bacteria-filled contents of your gut from your sterile bloodstream. These cells are glued together by complex protein structures called tight junctions. Think of them as microscopic biological steel doors. When you consume the standard American diet, specifically gluten, which triggers a protein called zonulin, and when you swallow NSAID pain relievers or the little purple acid reflux pills, you detonate a biological bomb inside your gut. These chemicals aggressively dissolve the tight junctions. The biological steel doors are ripped off their hinges. Your gut becomes hyperpermeable. You develop leaky gut. Now, look at the bacteria living in your microbiome. Many of them are gram-negative bacteria. The outer cell walls of these bacteria are made of lipopolysaccharides, or LPS. LPS is a highly toxic, highly inflammatory molecule. In a healthy gut, it stays safely inside the intestinal tube and is excreted. But because your tight junctions are shredded 30 minutes after you eat, the physical churning of digestion violently forces massive amounts of this LPS endotoxin straight through the gaping holes in your gut wall and directly into your bloodstream. The moment this biological shrapnel enters your blood, your immune system screams in terror. It believes you are suffering from a massive systemic bacterial infection. Your white blood cells launch a catastrophic roaring tsunami of inflammatory cytokines, specifically interleukin-6 and TNF-alpha. This cytokine storm rips through your circulatory system. When these inflammatory molecules reach your brain, they aggressively cross the blood-brain barrier. Deep inside your hypothalamus, you have specialized neurons called orexin neurons. Orexin is the master neurotransmitter of human wakefulness and kinetic energy. It is the chemical that keeps you alert, driven, and upright. The inflammatory cytokines physically bind to the orexin neurons and paralyze them. They chemically lobotomize your wakefulness center. Your brain is flooded with a biological signal that says, "We are infected. We are under attack." Shut the entire body down immediately to conserve energy for the immune system. Your limbs turn to lead. Your brain fog becomes impenetrable. You are plunged into a state of profound acute sickness behavior. You are not tired because you ate a big meal. You are exhausted because your immune system is actively fighting a biological fire caused by the toxic sludge leaking through your shredded intestinal walls. And finally, we must expose the biochemical catastrophe of the insulin tryptophan serotonin crash. When your doctor tells you to eat a healthy meal of whole grains, oatmeal, or bread, they are prescribing a massive dose of complex glucose. When that glucose hits your shredded gut, it rapidly absorbs into your bloodstream, spiking your blood sugar. Your pancreas panics and pumps out a massive, corrosive wave of insulin to clear the sugar. Insulin is a highly anabolic storage hormone, but it doesn't just store sugar. Insulin aggressively forces almost all the amino acids floating in your blood directly into your muscle cells. It clears the bloodstream of everything, except for one specific amino acid, tryptophan. Because insulin has removed all of its biological competitors, tryptophan suddenly has a completely uncontested, wide-open highway straight to your blood-brain barrier. It floods into your brain in massive, unnatural quantities. Once inside your brain, that tryptophan is rapidly converted into serotonin and then aggressively converted into melatonin, the sleep hormone. You have literally engineered a chemical tranquilizer dart. You spiked your insulin, cleared the competitors, flooded your brain with a sleep-inducing amino acid, and chemically forced your central nervous system to go unconscious. Combine this serotonin crash with the suffocating lack of blood flow and the roaring fire of endotoxemia, and it is a biological miracle that you can even sit upright in your chair. We are not going to prescribe you amphetamines to force a starving, poisoned brain to stay awake. We are not going to tell you to just drink more acidic, dehydrating coffee that further shreds your gut lining. We are going to aggressively, systematically reconstruct your intestinal barrier, violently accelerate your gastric emptying, and force the blood back into your skull where it belongs. Here is the exact, hardcore, non-negotiable biological masterclass protocol to fix the root cause and reclaim your post-meal energy. Step 1. The Splanchnick blood shunt bypass. We must stop the blood from pooling in your abdomen for hours on end. The longer food sits in your stomach, the longer the blood is trapped there. You must physically accelerate the breakdown of the food. As you age, your parietal cells atrophy and your stomach acid drops, meaning meat and heavy proteins sit and putrefy in your gut like a warm compost pile. Right in the middle of your meal, you must deploy betaine HCl with pepsin, paired with a broad-spectrum, high-potency pancreatic digestive enzyme. Betaine HCl is pure encapsulated hydrochloric acid. When it releases, it violently drops the pH of your stomach down to 1.5. This massive acid surge physically denatures the proteins, rapidly liquefies the food, and signals the pyloric sphincter at the bottom of your stomach to open immediately. The food moves out of the stomach in record time, dramatically shortening the duration of the splanchnic vasodilation, releasing the trapped blood back into systemic circulation, and instantly restoring the oxygen pressure to your brain. Step 2. The tight junction molecular spot weld. We must aggressively close the biological steel doors to stop the lipopolysaccharide shrapnel from leaking into your blood and paralyzing your orexin neurons. You must deploy a massive dose of zinc L-carnosine on a completely empty stomach, first thing in the morning. Do not use cheap zinc oxide. Zinc L-carnosine is a specialized, molecularly bonded compound that survives the digestive process and physically adheres directly to the inflamed, ulcerated, microscopic tears in your epithelial lining. It acts as a biological spot welder. It actively stimulates the production of insulin-like growth factor 1 inside the gut wall, commanding the cells to rapidly divide and physically stitch the gaping holes shut. You must pair this with 5 grams of pure L-glutamine powder. L-glutamine is the exact, non-negotiable amino acid fuel that your enterocytes use to rebuild their structural integrity. You are physically sealing the gut, locking the toxic endotoxins in the tube, and completely shutting down the cytokine fire that is putting your brain to sleep. Step 3. The endotoxin neutralization sweep. While the gut is actively healing, we must neutralize the toxic sludge that is already crossing the barrier. 10 minutes before your heaviest meal, you must consume a high-quality, cold-processed bovine colostrum containing extremely high levels of immunoglobulin G, or IgG. This is a fierce biological sponge. The IgG antibodies in the colostrum do not absorb into your bloodstream, they patrol your intestinal lumen. They actively hunt down the lipopolysaccharide endotoxins and pathogenic bacteria, violently bind to them, and neutralize their toxic charge before they can ever reach the damaged tight junctions. You are disarming the biological bombs before they can explode into your bloodstream and shut down your wakefulness center. Step 4. The insulin tryptophan blocker. We must shatter the massive insulin spike that is driving the tryptophan coma in your brain. You must physically blunt the glycemic impact of your food. 15 minutes before your meal, you will drink exactly 1 tablespoon of raw, unpasteurized, organic apple cider vinegar diluted in 2 ounces of water. The active compound here is acetic acid. When acetic acid enters your digestive tract, it aggressively binds to the enzymes that break down starches, partially paralyzing them. More importantly, when it hits your bloodstream, it penetrates your muscle cells and forces them to violently open their glucose transporters without needing insulin. You are forcing the sugar into the muscle tissue mechanically. The insulin spike is completely blunted. The amino acid competitors remain in your blood. The tryptophan highway to the brain is blocked. You entirely prevent the massive chemical synthesis of the sleep hormone melatonin. Step 5. The kinetic post-meal, soleus siphon. You cannot eat your meal and then go sit in a recliner. Passivity is a death sentence for your cerebral blood flow. The moment you finish your last bite, you must immediately activate your biological pumps. You will stand up and perform either a brisk 10-minute walk or, if you cannot walk, 3 minutes of aggressive, explosive calf raises. You must violently contract the massive soleus muscle deep inside your calf. This muscle is your second heart. When you aggressively flex it, you create a massive mechanical vacuum that literally crushes the deep veins. It forcefully siphons the pooled, stagnant venous blood out of your lower extremities and abdomen, blasts it past the one-way valves, and pushes it violently back up to your heart. You are mechanically forcing the blood out of the splanchnic pool and driving it straight up into your brain, instantly restoring your cerebral perfusion pressure and blowing away the brain fog. The medical establishment has told you that passing out after lunch, losing your cognitive edge, and feeling like a zombie every afternoon is just the unavoidable, tragic progression of aging. They have told you that the only way to survive is to drink more coffee or take a prescription stimulant to whip your exhausted nervous system. That is a terrifying, highly profitable lie. You are not a decaying machine losing its energy. You are an infinitely complex biological ecosystem that is being structurally shredded, chemically paralyzed, and hemodynamically suffocated by a food and medical system that refuses to understand the laws of human physics. Stop accepting the medical gaslighting. Stop chemically sedating your stomach acid while your food rots. Stop letting the lipopolysaccharide shrapnel paralyze your brain. Accelerate your digestion, spot weld the tight junctions, neutralize the endotoxins, block the tryptophan coma, fire the mechanical siphon in your calves, reclaim the highly acidic fire of your digestion, and give your brain the life-saving tsunami of oxygen and razor-sharp energy it is desperately screaming for. I'm Dr. Amelia Carter. I'll see you in the next video.